many Jat communities were allowed their young men to marry even untouchables.
Just a moment, let him finish.
It will be unthinkable.
Now it will be unthinkable. Let me bring you in, Subhashini Ali, and let's broaden beyond the controversy about whether this is a particular Jat phenomenon or not. One of the things that people always assumed was that honor killings were things that happened in rural India. You now read about them as events that take place in Delhi, in Noida. Does that suggest that in fact urban life is neither as modern as we believe it to be, and secondly that it's not quite as cut off from rural feudal influences as we thought it was?
I would just like to say two things, because it's not easy for me to speak from here. Number one, I'd like to say that the social reform movements that started in many parts of India pre-independence, actually they did not reach their logical conclusions, and today you don't see many remnants of those social reform movements anymore. There is nobody who is really talking about reforming society, about doing away with the caste system, and all those other issues that were being raised in the 20s and 30s in a very big way in many parts of India. The second thing I'd like to say is that on the one hand we have individual killings. That means like we have the killing in Bombay of the brother killing the boy that his sister has married, crossing the caste and the regional barrier. But here we have something which is a collective killing. It's a collective ordering of a killing and of a punishment. And that is why this requires special attention. It requires special laws. Also because...
Can I stop you there? What it requires I want to go into later. I want to first try and understand. I'm stopping you because I don't want to go in at this point into what we need to do. I'll come into that in a big way in part 2. I want first to try and establish an understanding of why it's happening and why in a sense it's happening now. One of the things that has been noticed, particularly Mr. Prakash Singh in the Manoj Babli instance, is that when these killings happen, the police, instead of protecting those who become victims, often end up facilitating the crime. Is that a sign of a breakdown within the police force? Or do you think it's simply explained by the fact that the police come from the same community, they are party to the same influence?
Well, police system as it is has broken down. I have said more than once that it is in shambles due to a complex set of factors. Besides the case that you have mentioned, it is possible if the station officer or the police personnel at the particular police station, if the majority of them belong to a particular caste, it is quite possible that they would favor the boy or the girl's family from that caste. That is quite possible. So those influences are at work in these matters.
The tragic codicil of what you're saying is that if the police come from the same community where honor killings are happening, the police will not be an effective guard against it. Yes,
they will not be effective. They would tend to be partisan.
What about politicians? Madhu Kishwar, what sort of message do they send out to communities that indulge in honor killings when people like Naveen Jindal and Bhupinder Singh Hooda appear to seem to side with Khap Panchayats and the sort of kangaroo justice they mete out rather than uphold the constitutional rights of individuals?
See, firstly, you have made Khap Panchayats synonymous with honor killings, which is not the case. It's like making the Indian judiciary synonymous with the Bhopal verdict. There are corrupt judges and there are hideously ill-informed judges and there are very unfair judgments, but you don't ever.
I accept your point. I accept your point.
Also,
I accept your point. But let's not, Madhu, let's not get sidetracked by
No, but I'm saying, please.
I accept your point, but come back to the question I asked.
Secondly,
what message do politicians send out?
I think Naveen Jindal's stand was very judicious. All he said is that the demand that intergotra marriages be included in the prohibited category among many other prohibited categories.
You think it's a judicious demand?
Judicious in the sense he's saying no violence, no murder, I don't support. The Hindu marriage law in any case, Karan, is a conglomeration of
maybe. But you're saying
laws.
something that is unique, I think, and I'd like therefore to bring in Professor Nandi to ask whether he agrees. Is it a judicious demand? Judicious also, just a moment, judicious also suggests a measure of legitimacy.
Yes, I wouldn't go that far, because I think murder is a crime in any case, and in Indian Penal Code, and I think we should go by that. That's an alternative system. We have accommodated community laws to the best of our ability, but these community laws are not very well thought out. Smaller communities have been excluded from that. You have tried to form some kind of a law which will please, on the whole, be acceptable to a large community.
Let me come back to, let me just put a question to you. You're saying that you believe that the demand that inter-Gotra marriages should be prohibited is judicious. Why do you think it's judicious?
Okay, let me explain. The Hindu marriage law...
Please explain quickly.
Yeah, quickly. Hindu marriage law is in any case not secular. There is a special marriage act under which all kinds of restrictions are in a way gone. In Hindu marriage law, you have the customary provisions of many communities. And as Ashish said, I've
please
always
explain the answer to this. Why is it judicious?
I'm saying if, for example, certain Sapinda marriages are prohibited, somebody says add our also, it doesn't mean you kill them, you lock them
no one's
in
saying
jail.
that, but what you're saying is if some type of marriages are prohibited
I'm
already, add one more, it doesn't matter. Let me bring in Subhashini Ali.
He's not justifying murder.
Well, I'm not saying he is either, but why are you jumping to that? We aren't talking about murder. Subhashini Ali, do you believe that Naveen Jindal's position that inter-Gotra marriages should be barred by the Indian Marriage Act is acceptable and judicious? As Madhu Kishwar says, her argument is that already other types of marriages are barred, one more being barred won't matter.
Only for the Jats.
Only for the Jats, as she adds, but never mind, the Jats are human beings as well. Subhashini Ali, very quickly on that specific point, is this judicious and acceptable?
I do not agree with Naveen Jindal at all, because even in Haryana, there are many villages where Sahagotra marriages take place all the time. We cannot get into prohibiting this kind of marriage or prohibiting that kind of a marriage. Incest has been very clearly defined. Other than that, people can marry. We're not saying they should get married, but at the same time, you can't make their marriages illegal.
Very quickly, let me bring in Professor Mr. Prakash Singh. Mr. Prakash Singh, the essential point is this: if already several types of marriages are barred under the Hindu Marriage Act, would adding one more make a difference, or would it be a significant denial of rights, even if it's only limited to the Jat community?
I don't think we can have a specific provision for the Jat community. It has to either it should apply either to the entire Hindu community or to nobody.
Professor Nandi first, I'll come back to you.
Separate law, and in any case, in Indian Constitution, you always have the option of a secular marriage. So we have to ultimately protect this.
So just Madhu, let him finish, then I'll bring you. Madhu, I'll come to you, but I have let you explain. No, it's not getting messed up. Just let others talk and I'll come back to you. Therefore, are you disagreeing with Madhu?
I am disagreeing, because in any case, you cannot do that. It is not doable.
Come back.
I'm not Madhu, I'm disagreeing with Jindal.
No, for example, in Hindu marriage law, marriage between first cousins is permitted for certain communities, it's not permitted for certain others. The Hindu marriage law say that. Similarly, uncle and niece getting married is allowed in South Indian and not so. The Hindu Marriage Act may make such exceptions.
So one more will not be a major difference. That's what you're saying.
But Jats are foolish in thinking that then the government will lock up people or hang them or jail them. That is the foolishness that they are committing.
Okay.
You can still get married. You opt out either as Special Marriage Act, or even if, for example, I were to marry my uncle, the government of India is
I
not
understand.
going to
I understand the point you're making. I'm stopping you. I
implications.
understand the point you're making, that this would be one more example of the sort of things that would be barred under the Act, but there are other ways that those people could still get married just outside the Act. Let's take a break and come back in the limited time available and ask, what then should we be doing about this grisly and gruesome phenomenon? That's in a moment's time. See you after the break.